Hello all, and I've been thinking about this for a while, and wasn't sure I was even going to try um, to put this into words. But with everything that's gone on, and I've written about this some, um, right now with kind of the turmoil of ideas and disruptions and ideologies and all of this stuff that's going on. I want to first say that I think it's a good thing, and I think even um, I'll explain, but the Trump presidency has been a good thing. The riot that happened in Washington, D.C. is a good thing. This whole progression of ideologies, of meeting a point of combativeness and ideologies that have become greater than who we are as humans, who we are as Americans, however you want to label it. But I would suggest that these things have been perfect examples. Even the coronavirus has helped us to see other people's situations, other people's lives in a different light. The Trump presidency, I think, I, I believe that if he got in office, that it would serve a purpose to awaken a lot of Americans to who we have become. This uh, this is not something foreign to us. Trump is in all of us at some level. Some people can identify with it more, some people identify less. But overall, Trump lives in all of us. His ideologies, his way of doing things, and I think if you're honest with yourself and you go back, you can understand that you have been Trump at some level. You have acted the way he has acted. You have done the things that he has done on an individual level, at a personal level, in your daily life, not on a political level necessarily, but still that is a reflection of a part of us. It's like a facet of a diamond. It's a part of that whole. And I think he brought it out full blown. And I think it was good because it shows us that yes, that's a part of who we are. Definitely. Every single person. If you deny it, you're just not living in reality. But you can't allow that one facet of humanity, that one part of us, to absolutely rule your behavior, your direction, your stances in life. It's a small part. We've put too much emphasis. It's been called tribalism. The Republicans, the Democrats, the tribalism, the white supremacists. All of this stuff has come in. They're just labels. What's at the bottom of it is, who are you? And I've said this time and time again. In order for any of this to change, it has to be you. It has to be the grassroots. Not activism, not selecting political candidates, although that after the fact is appropriate. You have to make appropriate choices in your own personal life. You have to begin to see others' perspectives. That just think of anyone that you've walked through a grocery store, driving down the street, that you've looked on and denigrated because their car was a piece of junk and they had all their belongings stuffed in the back seat, or You see them driving along and you just go, wow, there's some white trash or whatever. Or you see a black person and you want to associate them with all the icons of anger and fear that pervade our culture. Or you see a Mexican, or you see Chinese, or anything. First thing, when you see a Chinese, when you see someone as being Chinese, when you see someone as being black, when you're seeing someone as being Mexican, you're already infiltrated with all of your biases that you've learned. You're going to paint them that way, and you're going to treat them the way that you paint them with your ideologies. What we need to do is to see people as humans, which is absolutely true. It's the higher level of thought, because ultimately we all came, genealogy has traced almost every one of us back to, a central point in Africa. We're all of this same genealogy. Yes, we may look a little different. We may have different cultures, whether it's Islam or anything. It doesn't matter. These are these are layers that we have created within our culture, and no culture, including the American culture, the Western culture, maybe it'd be better said, has a lock on truth and the right way. It's just not so. We have no more authority in expounding the truths of being on this earth than any other culture. And that includes the Christian culture, because the Christians also wrap themselves up in the Christian flag and go about doing harm, tearing people apart. All of these divisions are just that. They separate us from the human element and turn us into something of an ideological dogma representative. And it's just insane. If we're ever going to fix this, if we're ever really going to cross the border into a more peaceful existence, then we have to accept people for who they are, understand, and be compassionate to people whose circumstances have driven them in different directions, where they were born, whether they had economic support or not. There's people living in tents, because they lost their jobs and are homeless, so to speak. That's insane that we should look down on them for anything. And I think a lot of people would want to point out, well, they're just, they need to get out and get a job, or they need to do this. Well, maybe that's true in some cases, but a lot of cases, people are in the situation they are by no fault of their own, and we only see those who have, through luck, chance, or opportunity, that have made enough money to be secure, as someone to look up to. And we think that they are the ones that should be ruling our government. No. This is I think you have to clear your own, like the Bible says, to pull the mote out of your own eye before you start trying to do it for somebody else. You have to clear yourself. You have to look at yourself in your daily life and be open to change. When you see that person in the grocery store, instead of going through your normal ramblings of how awful they are, or dirty, or ugly, or, just a shame, or whatever, maybe you ought to walk a mile in their shoes. And a lot of people are having to do that. A lot of people are suddenly, due to corona, whatever the situation, but they're suddenly cast into a different role. And they're having to figure out that I didn't create this problem, but you're getting to live as someone else has had to live due to their circumstances. We have to change ourselves. We have to look at ourselves and see less difference and more characteristics of similarity. I know many of us, having, maybe it's somebody you worked with that you just didn't like, or somebody that is in your family that you just didn't care for, didn't want to be around. You know, you thought this and that and the other, and you had all these designations about them, you know, about how they're have no, you give them no respect. And then, for some reason, one or another, maybe you're forced to actually just sit down and be in the room with them and talk with them, and you find out they're really human, they're really got a heart, you know, they're in a bad circumstance or a bad situation, and they're dealing with it best they can. And suddenly you get a little compassionate toward them. Well, you know, you don't always have the opportunity to make that connection and understand the deepest understandings of that person and how their life unfolded. But you do have the opportunity to give anybody, the person you pass in the grocery store, grace. And say, you know, don't pity them. Just see them as an equal who hasn't had the same opportunities as you had. And it's true too, you know, for those who are in the situations where they are downtrodden and in a bad place, is not to look at people who have money or, you know, have substance as enemies either. You know, their circumstances are such. We can't cross the racial boundaries. We can't cross the economic division boundaries. This complete imbalance of the richest and the poorest of the poor. We can't make that happen unless we make changes as an individual in our own life. Not falsely, but because it's the right thing to do. And that's the difference between where Donald Trump stands and a person like me stands. I want to see the other side of the story. I want to learn more about it. I want to understand the individual. And I can't think of a case where I have sat and talked with someone that I just couldn't quite understand, that I wasn't impressed, and I realized how much I had assumed that was wrong. We got to make the change. You can't depend on the politics. You can't depend on if you're a Republican or a Democrat. You can't depend on putting something in office. That's just a scapegoat. If you start correcting it on your end, and you start correcting it in your daily life, and you start being an example of to what America really should be, what humanity really should be, you'll see it change. You will absolutely see it change. So anyway, there's so much about this, and I don't know if this is would ever touch home with some people, but believe me, what we are seeing right now is growth. What we are seeing, this disruption, this division, needed to happen. It needed to happen. We need to tear this down, look at it from a different perspective. We cannot go on living our lives in the same way we did before. We have got to change. And don't depend on the politicians. Don't depend on a political party, any political party. Do it in your life. The rest will come about without any effort. Much love. Much peace.